Hello, Udayan sir. Just want to check my mic is working or not. Am I audible? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the SDFC Library, Ashoka University, I extend a very warm welcome to all our participants. Joining us today for session 5 of the Librarian Colloquium L3 webinar series. This series is not just another set of webinars, it is a deliberate professional movement designed to reimagine the role of librarians in a rapidly evolving knowledge ecosystem. At its core, the L3 colloquium stands for what modern librarianship demands from us: leadership in literacy, responsibility for infrastructure, and accountability through research integrity. And let's be honest, if we, as library professionals, are not evolving with data, analytics, and technology, we will become irrelevant. This initiative is our response to that reality. This series of webinars is a service to library science and its professionals, conceptualized and driven by the SDFC library team under the visionary leadership of Dr. Shantanu Ganguly, whose work continues to push the boundaries of knowledge management, digital transformation, and research ecosystem. Today's session focuses on something many libraries use but very few truly understand: counter metrics and trusted usage data. We often talk about subscription, budgets, and renewals, but without reliable usage data, those decisions are guesswork. As highlighted in the counter framework, standardized usage metrics allow libraries to evaluate return of investment, compare resources fairly, and make evidence based decisions. Without that standardization, you are comparing apples to oranges and making flawed decisions. We are extremely fortunate to have with us today Ms. Tasa Melinskoen, Executive Director of Countermetrics, who will deliver the keynote and provide us with a foundational understanding of Project Counter and trusted usage data. Joining her is Mr. Kenneth DeFiore, Library Ambassador at CELUS, who will share insights on a specialized web-based application designed to automatically harvest and analyze usage statistics through the SUSI protocol. I encourage all participants to stay engaged, reflect critically, and think about one thing throughout this session. Are you actually using your data or just collecting it? With that, I invite Ms. Tasa Melinskoen to deliver the keynote address.
Thank you very much to HDFC Library at Ashoka University and to Dr. Ganguly in particular for inviting me to talk to you this afternoon. I do have a presentation, so could somebody please confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
Lovely, thank you. So, as mentioned, my name is Tasha Mellins-Cohen. I am the Executive Director at Countermetrics. I have been running the organization since 2022, but I have been involved with Counter since 2015 when I wrote the original friendly guides. So, as you all know, libraries need usage metrics for digital resources like journals, books, and databases to evaluate your return on investment and make informed collection decisions. If you have inconsistent reporting across different publishers, that can make fair comparisons difficult. And that's where Counter comes in. Since 2003, we have brought the knowledge community together to agree and adopt a code of practice, a shared standard for measuring and reporting content usage. And what I'm going to do today is cover the foundational elements of the code of practice and cover a little bit about ways that usage metrics can support decision-making at your institution. So, very brief couple of minutes as background to Counter in case anyone isn't familiar with us already. So this dates back to 2003 when, if you remember, every publisher was measuring usage differently and librarians didn't know which measures they could trust. So a group of librarians and publishers came together to create Counter. We're not-for-profit, funded primarily by membership fees from a collaborative group, and nearly everything that we offer is free, including the education materials that I'm going to talk about shortly. Most importantly, publishers do not charge you for delivering Counter reports. They are an essential part of their processing. So what are we for? Why bother with a usage standard? As was said during the introduction, if you're comparing Counter metrics with web analytics, you're not comparing like for like. In the words of Charles Watkinson at the University of Michigan Press, using Counter versus web analytics is not even comparing apples to oranges, it's comparing apples to a beach ball that's been artificially inflated. When you're looking at a Counter metric, you know that you're seeing something that has been measured the same way and reported in the same way by every publisher, whether it's a tiny society like the Microbiology Society that I used to work with, or an enormous publisher like Elsevier or Wiley. They're all playing by the same rules. The other thing that you can be sure of when you're looking at Counter reports is that you are seeing reports that are privacy protective by design. You will never see information about an individual user in a Counter report, only the aggregated usage for your institution for a whole month. Web analytics, by contrast, often disclose user information, which we think is not appropriate. Since our launch in 2003, the industry, the way things have been published, has changed quite significantly, and the Counter Code of Practice has had to change with it. On average, big changes happen every 5 years. We introduced open access reporting in 2014 and continued to work on that through Release 5 in 2017 and in 5.1, which was published in 2023. We actually launched a new open access working group a couple of weeks ago, which will be meeting for the first time later today. Also this week, on Monday, we published our AI best practice. I will note that you'll see that 5.1 was published in 2023. It was actually approved for publication just 2 weeks before ChatGPT came on the market, and we simply didn't have a way of knowing or foreseeing how significant those changes would be. So we went ahead with 5.1, but we feel that we can't wait to address AI. So that best practice is now live. So how do people use Counter reports? Bear with me one moment. So there are lots of different ways that librarians around the world have told me they make use of Counter reports. There are the traditional uses for assessing subscription content. So cost per use is very common. The usual calculation for serialized content like journals is to look at the annual unique item requests and divide that by the subscription price that you have paid for the journal or the product. For books, most people would look at the annual unique title requests, and I'm going to describe the difference between item and title momentarily, but also divide by whatever the payment was for that book. The counterpart to cost per use is, of course, cancellation. So most libraries tell me that they look at the cost per use, but also total usage, so they have an understanding of how widespread the usage is of this material across their campus, and they take into consideration faculty feedback as well. More recently, by which I mean in the last 10 years, libraries have been using Counter to look at new ways of buying access that don't relate necessarily to subscriptions. So demand-driven acquisition, sometimes called evidence-based acquisition. Libraries have been saying that if they can show through increasing denial metrics that faculty and students are trying to use a particular piece of content but failing, they can push a book or a journal onto the consideration list for future licensing. And of course, open access, return on investment for open access can be calculated using Counter reports. If you have a global item report, and there are an increasing number of publishers that are offering that, you can work out, how much you have paid for your APC or in your read and publish deal, and do a similar cost per use calculation as for a traditional subscription. And I don't know if this is true in India, but I know many consortia and national bodies ask for management reporting, and what they're looking for is very high level countermetrics to give an indication of usage within a particular institution. So that would normally rely on what we call the platform report. And again, I will come back to that momentarily. So metrics. There are three broad flavors of metric in release 5.1. So there's the usage metrics, the search metrics, and the denial metrics. One analogy that can be helpful is this. A publisher's platform or website is like a popular bar. The search metrics will tell you the door count, the number of people who have expressed interest in the venue. They've come in and they've had a look around. The usage metrics are people buying drinks at the bar, they're spending money. And access denials are the people who've been turned away by the door staff for not wearing the appropriate clothing. I cannot remember which librarian gave me that analogy back in 2018, but I love it. So the denials, there's two flavors of denial. No license means that access is denied, you don't have a subscription for this content, or you haven't purchased the book. Limit exceeded is slightly less common, and it means that you have a cap on the number of users who can access the same thing simultaneously, and you've breached that cap. So quite simple metrics. Our search metrics, I'm afraid to say, are unnecessarily complicated. So one of my wish list items for the future is making these easier. The main one to be aware of is Search's platform. Every single publisher platform has to deliver the Search's platform metric as part of the platform report. And that gives you just a very broad overview of search activity across the whole website. If you have a database platform, so something like EBSCOhost, you will see searches regular and searches automated. Those are database search activity when a user can or cannot select which database they're looking at. There is a lot more information about the different metrics on our education pages. There is a friendly guide to metrics, and I'm going to pop a link to the free education pages in the group chat right now. So please do go and have a look at that. I have been revising and extending the friendly guides for the last month. 7 out of the 8 have been completely revised and extended just this year. So please do go and take a look. So investigations and requests. These are our usage metrics. We don't use the terms views and downloads because fundamentally nobody can quite agree on what they mean. I have a fantastic report that has been shared with me by a librarian where for one journal, the views are 3 times as high as the downloads, and for a second journal, the downloads are higher than the views, and we can't work out how or why that would happen. Instead, Counter uses the words investigations and requests to distinguish between the different types of usage. So every single interaction with a piece of content on a publisher platform is an investigation. That might be an interaction with metadata, so looking at a book blurb or a video thumbnail or a journal abstract, or it could be the use of a link, such as one to interlibrary loan. We also, because every interaction is an investigation, count interactions when a user looks at the full record. So that could be looking at a whole book chapter or article or hitting play on the video. When the user interacts with that full record, we also tell the publisher to count a request. So that means requests are always going to be a subset of investigations. And if you see a report where requests are higher than investigations, you can tell instantly that something is very wrong. For an open access publisher, it's very common for requests and investigations to be the same, so don't worry about that. Investigations and requests are reported in 2 ways. First, we count them as total counts, so total item investigations and total item requests. So that is 1 count for every single activity. So if a user lands on an article abstract, for example, that is 1 total item investigation. If they then click the share button to send a link to one of their colleagues, that is a 2nd total item investigation. And if they download the PDF, that is a 3rd total item investigation plus 1 total item request. Because that's not necessarily very useful for librarians to know every single click that a user is making, we specify something called unique metrics. So unique item investigations and unique item requests. So if we think about our example, we have 3 total item investigations and 1 total item request. That will be collapsed down to 1 unique item investigation and 1 unique item request. One of the really useful things about that is that the unique metrics mean that you can compare usage patterns across different publisher platforms, no matter how they've configured their user interfaces. So if you think about, again, our journal, it's quite common for publishers to default to always sending people to the full text if they have access. So that's going to artificially increase your request metrics, even if it's something that your user has looked at the abstract and then disappeared, because you can compare the unique requests. You're not going to duplicate activity. Similarly, if somebody goes in, looks at the full text article and downloads the PDF, that will be collapsed down to 1 unique item request. So unique metrics are really helpful. We also know that while our usage metrics are mostly associated with individual pieces of content, which we call items, books and reference works are a little bit different, and most librarians want to know what's happening at the level of the whole book. So we collapse down the unique item investigations and requests to title level metrics. So for books or reference works like textbooks, you will see unique title metrics. So some hints and tips. You'll have already understood that I always recommend using the unique metrics. The conversion rate from investigations to requests can be really interesting because it will tell you how highly your users value the full text, the real meat of the content that is being offered to them. If you're seeing very, very, very high investigations and very, very, very low requests, unless it's an abstracting and indexing database like Web of Science, you might find that the content is relatively lower value. Keep an eye on the access type. So we have controlled for subscription content, open for open access stuff, and free to read for anything that's temporarily free. Open access content is likely to have a 1-to-1 ratio of investigations to requests, but it's been quite interesting seeing how things have changed as people have started using open access more frequently. So, moving on to reports. There are 4 counter reports. I know that some libraries still like to use the standard views. The counter reports are designed to be comprehensive and to offer the maximum amount of flexibility in working with metrics. The standard views, like TRJ1, are summaries that were developed to help libraries make the transition from release 4 to release 5. They are deliberately very limited and they exclude a lot of valuable information. So, for example, TRJ1 will never show you usage through text and data mining or through artificial intelligence, and it will never show you open access usage, and it won't show you all of the available metrics. So this is my plea, and I know you're going to hear about CELUS momentarily, and CELUS, because the team are wonderful, does always harvest the actual 4 reports. If you're going to use countermetrics, please use the full reports. I've mentioned the platform report a couple of times. It's designed to give you a very high level or bird's eye view of usage. It has all of the countermetrics that are relevant to the platform, and it summarizes everything for you. So it's great for management reporting. The database report is heavily focused on search, though it does also obviously include denial and usage metrics. And it aggregates information at the level of a database. So if you have, for example, licensed the medical database on a particular platform, you'll see that separately from the engineering database. The title report is probably the one that is most heavily used. It's books and journals, but also reference works, patents, anything that can be aggregated to the level of a title. It's very heavily focused on usage, and I get so many questions about it. It's great. There's lots of information about that on the website. The item report is very, very, very granular. It is fantastic for open access reporting, but those reports can be very large. So not every platform has to offer the item report. We encourage them to do so, but we don't mandate it. The education pages that I've popped into the chat, there is a whole guide about what's in the different reports, and that is probably the best place for you to look. I don't want to go into that level of detail today. All of the counter reports and the standard reviews have to be available in 2 formats. There are some universal rules for both formats, so you're going to get the same information. They have the same usage metrics and the same reports are available, whichever format you're downloading. They both use UTF-8 encoding, so that if you've got special characters in, for example, a book title or an author, that will come through safely. And typically there is 1 report for each customer ID, by which I mean for each university. There are some exceptions to that for open access reporting or for consortia, but it's, broadly speaking, 1 report per university. So the formats that we have are our machine-readable JSON schema. It's accessed through the Counter API, which used to be called Sushi, and I know CELUS still uses the word Sushi quite a lot, but we should properly be calling it the Counter API. And the JSON files are designed to use with business intelligence and data tools like Power BI or indeed CELUS. The other format that we have is tabular. So that's a standard spreadsheet format, usually tab separated value or Excel. They're designed to be human readable and human accessible. So they're very easy to work with if you have any kind of comfort with Excel or Google Sheets or any other format. Mostly you can get hold of your tabular files through the publisher's library administration portals. The reason that the JSON files are often better is that you can set up automatic harvests. You don't have to manually collect them. In both cases, what you will see is a fixed header structure. So in a tabular format, there are 13 rows in the counter report header, and there's a pretty standard formula for the body of what you're going to see in the report. So there's the content that's being used. So in the title report, that would be information about the journal name, for example, where in a database report, it would be the database name. You've then got the publisher and platform information, so what website this sits on and who published it. The content identifiers, which I call acronym central. So it's where you will find DOIs, ISBNs, ISSNs, URLs, and other proprietary identifiers. You then have the report attributes. So these are things that Counter defines, like data type, so book or journal, year of publication, access type, controlled, open, free to read, access method, so usually regular for humans, and the metrics. They will all appear in this report attributes section. There's way more detail about this in the tech guide on our education pages. And then once you've got through all of that, you finally have the reporting period total and month-by-month breakdowns of usage, search, and denial metrics. As I've said, there is a lot of free educational stuff on our website, countermetrics.org/education. Please go and take a look. I mean, we've put a lot of time and effort into making them helpful. But if there are things that you would like to see more of, please do get in touch and let me know. And this is how you can contact me, Tasha at countermetrics.org. Counter, while we supported about 4,000 libraries and publishers last year, we run on not quite a whole member of staff. So if you're sending messages to me, please be patient. I will try and get back to you as quickly as I can, but there is only so much I can do without being full-time. I would like to be, but I'm not there yet. So I hope that there are questions. I'm going to stop sharing and open up to questions.
Thank you very much, Tasha. It was a brilliant talk. I really appreciated the way you have brought in fact, I don't know whether if the time permits, then I'll make my own presentations. But I think countermetrics is in current context is so important that for any kind of data-driven decision-making process, when we talk about, because there is always a, just couple of weeks back, I had my fight with the regarding the budgets, library budget. There is a shrinking of budget is taking place. There is a valuation that is called VOI on the investments, the value on investment, the return on investment is taking place. So these are so much of integrities are there that it is extremely important to look at these kinds of metrics, which are extremely important, and it should be an integral part of the, I would rather call it as a library analytics. It should be. And I'm looking forward to that day when there would be one library analytics dashboard which covers everything at one particular place, and a librarian as a leadership role would be able to take the, I mean, he will give it an lens view that how he is going to put his university library's case in front of the, the entire, gamut of the people and all. That's going to be one of the important aspects I'm looking at. Thank you very much, Tasha, for your beautiful presentations. Thank you once again.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I can see some questions in the chat. Would you like me to answer them now?
Sure, ma'am. Sure. Please go ahead.
So one of the questions is whether it is possible for publishers to manipulate the metrics. So the short answer is, I'm sure they probably could if they really desperately wanted to, but we have several checks in place. So the first one is that every publisher who is counter compliant is listed in the counter registry, and I will pop a link to the registry in the chat as well. In order to be in the registry, the publishers have to pass the fundamental checks in our validator, and the validator is free to use. So I do sometimes get messages from librarians saying they've tested a publisher's report in the validator and have found problems. And that's a really useful piece of feedback because I can then go back to the publisher and say, what's going on? As well as the validator, publishers have to go an annual manual audit that is done by independent third-party auditors. So if you look in the registry, if you were to click on, say, Web of Science, you will see in their record, I'm just going to pop open my screen share again. So this is a registry record. For Web of Science, you can see it's from Clarivate, you've got the URL, and in their 5.1 information, you can see which reports they offer and also their valid audit status, when the last audit was and when the next audit is due to start. So you've also got all of their counter API information, so the sushi collection information, and that's all available publicly. I spend quite a bit of my time trying to make sure that publishers cannot game the system. So hopefully that gives you some
brings in
reassurance.
a very critical question. I don't know how to address it. Probably I could be, completely wrong, but you have to correct me out. See, Tasha, you need to understand, like, for example, in my university, like I told you that 2 weeks back, there is we had a very big session on, library budgets and all. What happens that we also provide the library dashboard analytics. We show them that this is the usage rate. We collect all the usages using CELUS products as well as from the, counter with the, the what publishers are providing. We try to map them together and all, and we try to showcase that. But what happens, like, for example, in my interdisciplinary, research, there are a couple of questions which I'm trying to look at. The answer generally, because which I have to tell this to my competent authority. Like, for example, and I'll take a journal name. Say, for example, Journal of Pond Studies. Now, this journal is meant for a very small group of researchers and group of faculty who are basically working on sexuality, gender, all these dimensions and all. I would like to know that if the usage counter metrics is for that particular society based journal is so less, how I should represent it and defend my case in front of the library, management. I mean, in front of the top management, actually.
Yes.
If you can highlight something on that.
So this is one of the spaces where actually having faculty feedback is incredibly important. So confession, I was a publisher for 20 years before I started running Counter. But internally, we would use Counter quite a lot to look at editorial strategies and so on and so forth. But when we were running very niche journals in very specific subject areas, so I worked at one point for the Royal Society of Medicine, and we had some very, very niche journals. one of the things that we would do is go to the university librarian and say, right, we know that your usage for this journal is quite small. We also have, however many articles that we have published from your faculty, because they are one of the leaders in this field. We've also spoken to the faculty members who are engaged with this journal, and here is what they say they need. So we were trying to do some of that work for you. But it really, when you have a very niche journal like that, it is important to have qualitative as well as quantitative feedback. I wish I could just say use the numbers, but it's not possible on that one.
Sir, your mic is mute.
No, I'm Sumit. I'm just asking her, Tasha, to take up all the questions which are there on the chat box.
So let me go through the chat box. So I think the next one that I can see is how is Counter useful for publishers? I think I've covered that a little in my last answer, that we would use it to speak to our customers. I've used Counter in all kinds of different ways as a publisher. So for editorial development and library communications, but also to identify which features on my publisher platform were particularly useful and which ones were helping to increase usage versus decrease usage. But also to identify where there were problems with our standards compliance in our XML markup, for example, because our metadata was wrong. People couldn't find the content, so we had usage going wrong. How can we analyze countermetrics in our research article? This is one of the things that we're working on at the moment. In the open access working group, we're also looking at how individual researchers can make use of countermetrics. I would love to have a situation where, so you know how you have the citation badges and the altmetric badges on a lot of articles. I would love to have a countermetrics badge on articles so people can see their usage. But that's, I don't think, going to happen particularly quickly. The next question is, how can library websites integrate Counter to generate usage automatically? So libraries don't need to generate countermetrics. The publishers generate them for librarians to use. I know that some libraries have created dashboards that are available to internal staff to view what is happening with usage. One library that I am aware of has done that using Power BI, but quite a lot use CELUS and just link to CELUS. There are other alternatives. So I know Alma Analytics has an automatic ingestion and dashboarding tool, and I think OCLC as well. So I feel like the BBC, I have to say that there's other options available. So I think that answers the next question as well, is about how you can hyperlink the metrics in your library site. It sort of depends on which system that you're using. And maybe Ken could talk a bit more about how CELUS could be integrated into the library site. And I think that's the last of the questions.
Okay, moving forward, thank you, Ms. Tasha, for that extremely insightful and structured overview of Counter and its role in bringing trust and standardization to usage data. Now, to take this a step further, from standards to implementation, I invite Mr. Kenneth DeFiore to share how tools like CELUS operationalize these metrics in real-world library environments.
Oh, well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with you today about CELUS and how our platform facilitates the acquisition and use of countermetrics. I just want to confirm that you can see my screen. I hit shared. And I just want to make sure my screen is coming through.
Yes, Ken, your screen is visible.
Okay, very good, very good. So what you're seeing here, I would say, is the homepage of a CELUS system. This CELUS system is a demonstration system that I use. I have the title of Library Ambassador. I invented that when I came to CELUS several years ago. Truth be told, I was actually retired. I worked for almost 2 decades at an organization called Ithaca. I'm sure you might be familiar with that. They're the makers of JSTOR and a service called Portico. I helped start Portico back in 2005. So I've been involved with libraries for many decades now, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to work with CELUS. And I should give a little bit of background about the application. The C in CELUS is an acronym, and it actually stands for Czech, meaning the Czech Republic. So CELUS was developed 6-7 years ago for the Czech National Technical Library. They needed an application to manage usage statistics. As you undoubtedly picked up from Tasha's presentation, counter statistics and it can be very complex to manage from hundreds of publishers, which many research libraries subscribe to. The technical team built this application, which we now call CELUS, for the National Technical Library. And I was brought on to lead global library relations and an effort to expand use of this application. Because as again, you heard from Tasha, these statistics form the foundation of how libraries make decisions about what journals to keep, what journals to cancel, what databases to keep, what databases to cancel. So these usage statistics lie at the foundation of, and I think I heard VOI. We in the States use ROI, which I think is very similar, return on investment or value on investment. So you're going to see here me walk through a few steps of how the CELUS system collects or harvests usage statistics and how those statistics can be used by libraries to make decisions. Again, this is a demonstration system that I have, and it doesn't have a considerably amount of data in it, but it's just I can be pretty nimble with it. Let me jump in and start with this dashboard of a typical CELUS system. And as with all dashboards, it gives you a slice of information that's contained within the platform. So we have bar charts and pie charts and various lists about the data that is in this CELUS system. So the bar chart is about usage. The pie chart is about gives you some sense of the success of the sushi harvesting, or as Tasha says, it's the counter API. We're trying to move away from the word sushi, but we at CELUS like it a bit because we give away chopsticks at our conferences when we go and we have a booth or a table. Our giveaway is what we call a sushi management device or chopstick. So we tend to hold on to that word sushi, but I think we'll be moving to use the counter API fairly soon. We'll have to think of some sort of marketing gotcha with the counter API. So here is this dashboard of my CELUS system, and all of the functionality of the platform is accessed on the left-hand menu. It's way beyond the scope of today's session for me to go through all of the features and functions, but I just want to focus on the key ones that I think are the foundation of CELUS, and I think are the most concern for librarians who are involved with usage metrics. So to start with, I'd like to talk about the data management, and that translates to loading or harvesting those counter statistics that Tasha described so eloquently earlier today. So I am looking at and you'll forgive me, I'm still going to use the word sushi rather than counter API. Sushi comes off my tongue a little easier. So what you're looking at here is a list of publishers and platforms that I have on my platform. And I'm sure you recognize these names: American Chemical Society, Annual Reviews, EBSCO. My favorite, of course, JSTOR, and Chicago Press and Royal Society of Chemistry. So this particular CELUS system has been set up to harvest the usage statistics, and you can see the active report column here. Tasha talked about the 4 reports that form the foundation of the counter specification. So that's the title report, the platform report, the database report, and the item report. So you can see here that these reports or a subset of these for each of these publishers is being harvested by the CELUS system. And we're actually going to look at a sushi credential. I'll stay with JSTOR here. And this is in essence what a sushi credential is. You have a requester ID and a customer ID and an API key. So these values are passed from the CELUS harvester to the publisher's harvester server. And so one server talks to the other, and CELUS pulls the usage statistics that the publisher makes available and pulls them into this platform here. And so one of the challenges that librarians have is that they want to track the success or failure of a particular harvest. They want to know how well their the extent of their harvesting of the publisher stats. Were there failures and were there errors in that particular harvest? Well, CELUS presents a graphical user dialog box that shows the progress of a particular sushi harvest. And here we're looking at, for JSTOR, for 2026, 2025, and some other months in 2024. And keep in mind, this is my demonstration system, so you're going to see some errors and gaps here that I keep in purposely to use as a point for describing things. So here we see all the green check marks, and as you might suspect, those mean successful harvests. And an unsuccessful harvest would be represented by some error code. So you can see I've got a Royal Society of Chemistry. I've got some errors in there again that I left in to show you what a failed harvest would look like. So again, for librarians that are on that are collecting statistics, these inventory control dialogue and error codes are very, very important, and it saves them time and identifying the errors and resolving the errors to be able to come to this dialog box. So harvesting is a very time-consuming activity. If you think about a large research library that has hundreds of publishers and platforms, and to be able to manually harvest those or go to the publisher's analytics website and download that and then collect it and aggregate it was very, very time consuming. And so the essence of the CELUS system is timeliness and accuracy of the reports that it generates. And this is the first example of that. So you can see how easy it is to set up a list of publishers with their corresponding sushi credentials and then invoke harvesting and then track the harvesting with within the platform itself. This is a huge time saver for librarians. Now, one of the things question you may have is what about non-sushi platforms or platforms that that have not been configured for Project Counter, or meaning they're not their statistics are don't comply with Project Counter, or that they lack a sushi mechanism for automatic harvesting. And I'm going to click on a link here on the left-hand side to show you that CELUS is dedicated to working with those non-sushi publishers. And this list is roughly 150 right now. And these are all publishers that lack a sushi server, so that the statistics must be harvested manually. And so CELUS, in working with these publishers, has created a knowledge base page for each of these publishers. And included in that knowledge base page is a template. And that template serves to guide the library on how to format the stats that they download from the publisher to ensure that our automatic loader will work successfully. So I am going to just very, very quickly show you an example of that. So one of the things that one resource that is often used is Canopy. It is a video resource, and one that is it lacks a sushi server, and it is non-counter compliant. But because CELUS is the central repository for all of the library's usage stats, the librarian wants all of the stats to be aggregated together in the cloud, which is where CELUS operates. So very quickly, I'm going to show you, this is the uploader for Canopy. So each uploader is that developed by CELUS for each particular publisher. So I am going to just click here and show you how to upload something in CELUS here. Okay, here's my data file that I've downloaded from Project Canopy, and I simply select it. I just happen to have that loaded on my hard drive. So here's the raw data that we would receive that the library would receive from Canopy. We are going to continue. And again, this is the customized CELUS loader that has been developed specifically to process usage data from this non-sushi publisher. So it looks like the loader has parsed out the data correctly. And so there's been no errors here. So I'm going to finish the import. And hopefully with a little internet luck here, we got a quick turnaround, and we can see this is the non-counter data that has been uploaded into CELUS for Canopy. Now, you can see that we've got two types of data from usage data from Canopy. We've got plays and we've got pages. Now, of course, they're a video platform, so they don't think in terms of, say, unique item requests or total item requests, which are more associated with textual-based resources. So this one is a video platform. So they count usage in terms of plays, which makes sense. You want to play for a video. And so I'm going to go up here on this list of platforms, and you can see that Canopy is now listed there. It wasn't there a moment ago, but it is now listed as a platform, and that data is loaded in along with my other demo platforms here. So we've talked about data management, and there's lots of other features that are within CELUS to facilitate the harvesting and collection and aggregating of the data. But I just want to stop there and transition to extracting data or creating standardized views of the data to answer questions about the use of content and what things we should cancel and what things that we should keep. So we've got data in this little demo system. So now I'm going to transition to the reporting module that is within CELUS. So I'm going to click report, and the thing that I click is this user interface to the reporting module. And oh, I see someone that said it's all too complex. Gosh, I'm really sorry about that. I wish I had more time to slow down and maybe take my time. And I'm happy to do that at another session, but I only have 20 minutes to go over some of the highlights. And so forgive me for going too quickly. I'm in the reporting module component here, and you'll notice that it has a spreadsheet type paradigm, meaning I have rows, columns, and filters. And so that is the essence of going in and slicing up the data that has been aggregated in this CELUS system. So I'm going to show you a quick standard view of something that you may do as part of your work. And I am going to start with analyzing the title report. This is the Counter 5.1 title report that has been harvested. So I'm just going to select that, and I am going to still keep the year simple to 2025. And so we're going to look at the usage of each of these platforms. I'm going to hit run here, and you can see that I've got usage of showing the counter metrics here that are highlighted in gray. And here's my list of platforms that I've pulled data from the Counter 5.1 title report, which hopefully you remember I showed you that we harvested the title report from these publishers. And remember, the successful harvest was the green check mark. So if the librarian wanted to analyze, say, the usage of these resources, they can quickly do that. Now, I'm going to just, again, quickly, I don't want to, make this too complicated, but sometimes librarians would like to drill even further. They might say that I want to look at a list of the databases, say that the database usage within, say, a platform like EBSCO. We all know that EBSCO host is a platform, and there are a number of databases that they sell within that platform, and your invoice may contain a list of costs that you pay EBSCO for use of those databases. So what I'm going to do is quickly shift gears and show you, we're going to go to analyze a database report. So we're going to pick the Counter 5.1 database report, and we are going to look at the usage, as I said, for 2025, and we're just going to select EBSCO. So with CELUS, it's so very easy to alter your filters, your columns and rows, and how you want to slice into the data that you've aggregated. So I've selected EBSCO here, and what I'm going to do is now just simply hit run. So I've switched from searching and analyzing the title report to analyzing the database report for 2025. And this time I limit it to just EBSCO. And so you can see that I've got usage data again, and you can see that's the typical project counter metrics that are listed here. And you can see on the rows, each row is a database for that resided within that EBSCO host. So again, I suspect you're familiar with Business Search Premier, Academic Search Premier, the CINAHL Nursing database, the Psych Articles database. So here is the usage data for each of these databases within the EBSCO host platform. There is a few other features. One in particular that I want to spend some time talking about today, and I noticed that there was a question that came up that said, well, what's the difference between CELUS and, say, Power BI or Tableau? And that's a very good question. And the distinction is CELUS does the work for you. In other words, could you build an application within Power BI that does the harvesting and does all the tracking and allows you to manually upload non-sushi and non-counter data, aggregate it, and have a underlying robust database to manage all this data? Yeah, you could build something on your own, but CELUS has done it for you. So I think you have to weigh the build versus buy argument. I can tell you that the underlying CELUS database has been configured specifically around the ability to manage various counter specifications, like counter 4 data, counter 5, counter 5.1 data, as well as the non-counter data. So it is no easy task, and the CELUS developers working with the librarians at the National Technical Library in Prague were able to pull this together. And I must say, its efficiencies are really unparalleled. Without sounding too much hyperbole there, it is an outstanding platform. So, but there are some libraries that would like to pull their usage data from CELUS and integrate it with other data in the library. I have been working with quite a few research libraries around the world, and they are interested in pulling together a dashboard, a holistic dashboard of all of the usage that the library engages in by its patrons, not just e-resources, but how many books have been checked out, how many interlibrary loan requests, and then insert into that dashboard, say, book usage or journal usage. And so what we've developed at CELUS is something called a data hub. And this permits a replica of the library CELUS database to be put in this data hub, and then which facilitates external resources or business intelligence tools like Power BI or Google Looker Studio or Tableau to extract usage data from the library CELUS system. So that replica actually exists in a ClickHouse database, and ClickHouse is a database that can accommodate the very sophisticated and robust database that's within the CELUS system. And so that's replicated, and through say a business intelligence tool that the user may use SQL queries to pull data from the data hub right into Power BI. So the data hub was announced a couple months ago. and we held some webinars specifically describing that. And I would encourage you to find those and watch those if you have any interest in extending your usage data from CELUS into other applications. I think I'm going to stop there and maybe go through some of the questions. I know I answered a few as I went along here, as I could see them at the bottom of my screen. But I'd like to pause here and go through the questions if I could. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, Ken, that's a fantastic presentation. This is Dr. Shantanu Ganguly from SDFC Library. Let me tell you, Ken, thanks to your CELUS product, it has, in fact, your this entire platform is now kind of a lifeline for my library. In fact, the reason being that at every stage, we are pulling out the data from the CELUS, and I am using it, as I was telling Tasha also, that I am using a lot of data where data-driven evidences are required for my competent authority to take a very appropriate decisions in calculating the VOI and the ROI of the journals and all. That was because that's where it has helped. That is number one. Number two is that recently we conducted a survey, and of my library users, both faculty and the students and all researchers and everybody. What has come out is that, and which actually comprehends the data of which is there in the CELUS also, the total number of denial requests. The denial request has helped me to cut down some of the publishers' resources which are not been. I created a benchmark for myself, but it is a debatable benchmark, not a about it, which I was mentioning in the Tasha's presentation also. So I made a benchmark on that, and some of the resources we are subscribing, and some of them new resources are coming into it, and we are trying to bring in, fill up the gaps and the need and the requirement of the users. That is where we are actually playing a very key role in the decision making process. So it is, thank you very much, Ken, the forward, and I don't know whether our Sanjay is there or not. My old time friend Sanjay Grover is there, but
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, great, Sanjay, good to hear you. So thanks to him for introducing me and saving my life in the data.
Sure. Well, you know CELUS better than I do. So why did you make me get up at 4 a.m? I'm on the East Coast time in the United States. You could have done my talk today.
Yeah,
That's
I could
okay.
have done your talk, but it is better to have many things, because I do a very specific area, but I am an implementer. See, you are an enabler. I would say you are an enabler, but I am an implementer. I have implemented it and I got the result. And that result has helped me in my entire competent authorities decision-making process and all. So that's what actually I want to comprehend, and I want to thank you personally among this August gathering. And you can imagine 250 people, and this is going in live also to the YouTube also, the entire sessions and all. So a lot of people have joined there. So now I think you can address the question. There's a lot of questions are there on the chat box, so please take up those questions. Yeah.
So I think, forgive me if I've overlooked any. The one I'm looking at says, as a self-subscribed of EBSCO, can we generate the usage report using CELUS? Yes, absolutely. I showed you how to look at the usage of the individual EBSCO databases, but you could go into CELUS, and instead of looking at the databases, you could look at usage based on titles. That would be very easy to do. You see here, you select title and then select EBSCO again, and then you would just run and you could get all of the usage for the EBSCO titles that are on EBSCO. So that's easy to do. If I had more time, I would actually show you that. And if anyone, and I work with Sanjay, and so he has an open invitation to set up any demonstrations with the community there. I'm happy to help. I just need a little bit of advance notice so I can clear my calendar at 4 a.m. East Coast time. Is CELUS open access platform or subscription? No, CELUS is a subscription. It's a pretty reasonable subscription, and Sanjay is our partner in your region, and he can talk to you all about fees and things of that nature, but it is a subscription-based platform. What else? We have specific database like CEI, EMIS, Statistica. Can CELUS provide Counter 5? Well, CELUS doesn't provide the reports. I would encourage you to think about what Tasha said. She said that the reports are generated by the publisher. The usage reports are generated by the publisher. Those reports that are generated by publishers can be counter compliant or non-counter compliant. So we are trying to encourage not only Tasha, but in my own work, I try to encourage all the publishers to make their usage data comply with the project counter specification. Now, if you recall, I showed you a list that we work with at CELUS. There's about 150 or so of these non-counter and non-sushi vendors that, and I showed you how to upload the usage data directly from a non-sushi vendor. So the next question, we are interested in learning about CELUS more. I would encourage you to speak with Sanjay. He's on the line here today. I think his contact information is available, and he can connect you with me, and we can collaborate on getting you the information that you need. Oh, there it is right there. There's his email. CELUS eats sushi for breakfast. What is the meaning of this mentioned on the said website? Well, CELUS eats, or it harvests sushi data, using sushi, it harvests counter data. So that's what we mean. It's sort of a double entendre. So sushi is a food, as you know, but also sushi is the name of the protocol that is being renamed Project Counter. So we say that CELUS eats sushi for breakfast, meaning it eats the sushi harvesting and the counter reports, and it delivers results by lunch, or it's just meant to be a little funny. That's all. What else? Is Indian publishers, are there in CELUS, or is it all foreign publishers? Well, that's a great question. We would love to get publishers from India counter compliant, or at least get them available within the CELUS platform under our non-sushi or non-counter area. So I think Sanjay can help us with that to increase the number of publishers from the Indian scholarly communication community to get those available, their usage stats available in CELUS.
Ken, if I could just jump in briefly. I mentioned that we published our AI guidelines this week. We also published what is called the Pathway to Compliance, which is a new service for small publishers and for publishers who have never previously worked with counter, to have an easier way to go from not offering any counter reports to being fully compliant. And I think a lot of the Indian publishers that I have spoken to so far would qualify for joining the Pathway to Compliance. I will pop a link to that in the chat. And if anyone is working with Indian publishers and would like them to work on the pathway, please put them in touch with me.
Very good, Tasha. Thank you. And that's probably a great exit for both of us into the next portion of the webinar.
I think Sumit, can you just give the host to Sanjay Grover also, so that he can speak for 2 minutes, and some of the questions
Yes,
he
sir. I
can
have
respond
already
back?
done that. He's the coach now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sanjay, would you like to say something? Put on your video, please.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Shantanu Ganguly. Thank you, Ashoka University HDFC Library team. And thank you, Tasha and Ken, for Ken specifically getting morning 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock and preparing for this presentation. And Tasha, having worked, I mean, we have been discussing about this webinar since Charleston conference. And finally, it has taken shape. I should say, with the blessing of Ashoka University, to showcase this platform. Yes, CELUS has been making inroads into India. We have been trying to showcase the university has been extensively using it and has been able to derive the value for money for making an investment on this, and also
Sanjay, your
getting a lot
voice
of
is
return
cutting.
on investment.
Sanjay, your voice is getting stuck. So can you switch
Yeah.
off the video? Can you switch off the video? Your voice is getting stuck. I think there is a network problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Now is it clear? Is it
It is clear,
clear?
but your picture is stagnant actually. Can you come back, Sanjay? Sanjay, are you there?
Yeah. Now I'm movable.
Yeah. No, not yet, but I think you can carry on.
Okay. Thank you all for having supported CELUS. I'm as a part of Knowledge Movers and Shakers representing CELUS in India, and we are open for giving trials to all the institutions, provided they give us CELUS is going to add value to supporting will be quite planned.
Sanjay, I think we've lost you again.
Yeah, he got disconnected. It seems he got disconnected, not audible at all, Tasha. Yeah. Ben, hello. Kane, are you there? Kane?
Yes, I am here, but Sanjay dropped off for me.
Yeah. I think you can stop sharing your presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Sanjay must be having, I think. So I would request, so thank you very much, Tasha. Thank you very much, Kane, for organizing such a beautiful. And sorry, Kane, next time I'll keep in mind and when to invite you for a session like that. I didn't know that you are at 4 a.m. Is it that Alexandria Library at the back?
No, that is the Strahov Library in Prague, and it is
okay. Another
it
one
is
of the famous
beautiful.
one. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually, if I hide my video, you will see me in front of it. So I actually visited it. It's beautiful. I love libraries.
Okay. I think Sanjay, would you like to say something quickly?
Yeah, I was trying saying that I would like to invite all the participants to come up for a trial. I have shared my email address. Please let me know the publishers that you subscribe to and give me the sushi credentials of 4 to 5 publishers, and we would set up a similar kind of trial what Ken showed you on the platform, and we could take you to also make a presentation to you how this could be advantageous to you in terms of gathering usage statistics, doing 2 key advantages which Ken wanted to show, but because of lack of time, he was not able to show, specifically the platform analysis, where you can see the platform overlaps, how many titles are overlap among all your publishers, and overlap simulation, cancellation simulation, which is a very unique functionality of CELUS. If you want to cancel a resource, you will be able to simulate the cancellation on your platform and see whether the cancellation would be useful or not. That's a very good advantage of this platform, which we would like to showcase when we set up a trial for you. I would welcome all of you to come forward with your details, and I will be able to set up trials for you. And thank you once again, Dr. Shantanu, for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kane, and thank you, Tasha. Over to Sunil. Over to Sumit, please, Sumit.
Yeah. Thank you to all our speakers for showing how usage data can be turned into something libraries can actually act on. If there is one takeaway from today's session, it is this: data does not create value, interpretation does. Most libraries today have access to counter reports, very few actually use them effectively. And that exact gap is what this session tried to address. The Librarian Colloquium is about building competence and redefining the role of librarians as strategic contributors, not just service providers. I would once again like to acknowledge the leadership of Dr. Shantanu Ganguly, whose vision continues to create platforms like this that genuinely contribute to the growth of our profession. To all participants, don't let today's session end as just another webinar. Take one idea from today, apply it in your library, and measure the difference. That's the only metric that actually matters. We look forward to seeing you for the last flagship session of the L3 webinar series on Monday. AI assisted library operations, resource person of which is none other than Dr. Sukhdev Singh, Deputy Director General, National Informatics Center. Thank you all for your active participation.
Thank you, Sumit. And probably, Sumit, you can mention that everybody has to fill up the feedback form, and which is mandatory for all of them.
Yes, sir, I will be sharing it in the group.
Yeah.
So,
Udayan, would you like to comprehend something? Udayan?
No, sir. No.
Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. And please stay in touch. As Sumit says, that we will be continuing such discussions and deliberations on the different topics and all. Okay. So our last session of this series would be on Monday.